I don't know if the hospitalization changed it where I'm like, I don't always think long term. I just kind of think getting by, but I don't know. I'm just glad to have the opportunity to keep finding out what's next. 2001, I was staying in a girlfriend's apartment, and it was the dirtiest apartment I've ever been in my life. And the second day I was there, I woke up, I had this big pimple on my hip. And on August 16, 2001, I ended up in Emory University emergency room with a staph infection and a blood clot in my leg. And it took a while for the doctors to figure out what it actually was. I had pulmonary emboli, lungs were shutting down, I was having trouble breathing, I had a fever. It was just pretty much every symptom possible, but they didn't know what it was. And my dad immediately drove down. And my mom, who was starting her first day at a new school as a teacher, just decided to go, so they both drove from Nashville down. And by the time they got there, I was about to have surgery on my back because the pool of the staph infection was basically, was it a nodule, it was a cyst, it was in my back, and the doctor had to go in and remove it. So that was the second day I was in the hospital. And I still had the blood clot issue and the infection, and I really couldn't breathe, so they intubated me. I had this couple scars to show off. And I was put in a medically induced coma because I couldn't breathe. So for about 3 weeks, I was in a coma. And because of the drugs they gave me to put me on were pretty strong, the drugs to get me out of the coma were pretty bad. I had these hallucinations, I couldn't tell what was real. Reality, but a weird version of reality. You know, I was in a bed, there was a whiteboard on the opposite side with little messages written on them, there's a TV in the corner. And so like writing would appear on the wall, like crazy messages, and the TV would have like ESPN on, and then instead of just a football game, players' body parts were falling off, like it would get weird. And a nurse came in who was taking care of me, my parents really liked her, and she gave me a shot, and my entire body froze. I couldn't breathe, I couldn't move, it was getting really cold, and she told me she would kill me if I told my parents about it. And then she gave me another shot, and I went back. It took a few times of them telling me that I was in the hospital, but I don't have that memory of before. I have a memory of, I was at work on Tuesday, I knew I was sick, I called my company to tell them, and then I drove home, and I don't even remember that. Next thing I remember, I'm in a hospital room in the ICU. People are telling me the story, and it takes a few times. Like I'm in marketing and you have to repeat messages. Well, I had to have a message repeated quite a lot before I kind of figured out the whole situation. I had to kind of communicate to the people there, like, here's what my experience is like, and then they finally got to tell me, here's what our experience was like while you were under. That's why I have this notebook that people wrote in. I have letters that people who were there wrote me to kind of tell me. Because, it was like early September 2001, I wake up from a nightmare. And when you have a nightmare, sometimes you don't remember it, but your body's reacted, you're sweating, you're rolling around. And so for me, I woke up from a nightmare, but the nightmare continued. I was still in it, and it took a couple months for it to finally fully resolve.